Hello, listeners. My name is Charles Scott, and we are here again this fine day.
Yes.
The program is called Can We Talk? We're here to give you some information pertaining to things that might affect your life and some things pertaining to the economy and to real estate. I'm here with Charles Scott Jr.
How you guys doing today? And we're here to talk about what's going on in the news and beyond.
Every week we try to come out and give you some information that might help you. And last week we had quite a lot of things that we were talking about.
Yes.
And we were talking about some of the things to do when the economy takes a downturn, some jobs that you can possibly jump into. What do they call those, gig?
What they call the gig economy, as we can see, not just with COVID, but the gig economy has always been there. But the thing is, COVID has kind of sped it up as far as people realize they don't have to be restricted to a 9-to-5 or traditional income. They can use, whether it's these apps or your own type of LLC where you can make money on your own.
And right now, even if you have a full-time job, people go out and they get a part-time job and to try and make ends meet. But a lot of things that are happening, ever since the COVID, a lot of people were working from home.
Yes.
And so what has happened is that this has spurred a lot of job openings for people to work at home, where employers realize that they can have you do some things at home and they can still become very profitable. I remember years ago, people would always send you all the advertisement, do you want to work from home and you can make a lot of money? Well, now it's almost the norm where
Yes.
people can do these things.
I was going to say, very true. For example, like today I went to an office and I met the tax professional there, and he told me he hasn't been in office in 2 months. He does everything through email, remotely, through home. I mean, there's a thing we use, DocuSign, where you can sign a paperwork from miles away, states away.
Exactly. I mean, going back about a couple of years ago, even I resisted DocuSign. There was all this, I said, oh, this stuff is complicated. You got DocuSign, you got this, you got that. Can you trust it over the mail? But now it seems as though, we have
How do you live without it?
I can't imagine how we live without it. And not only that, we have a lot of the senior citizens that have adapted to it very easily. It's very simple. If you have not done anything by DocuSign, you just go on there and look it up on you can do it right from your cell phone while you're driving along. We're in real estate, and sometimes we'll send a contract to someone who's the other side of the country, California, out of the country, and they can sign their signature and review it, send it right back to us, and
get it back instantly.
We could send it back to the seller or the buyer, and so a lot of things are being done right over the internet.
Yes. So I was going to add to that also. With the technology getting more advanced, we're seeing that people are using this in order to, make money on the side, whether these gigs, for example, we see a lot of food delivery gigs, but I go into restaurants now and I'll see a line of young kids and I'm like, they're not eating, but they have backpacks, they're ready to go, and I realize, oh, those are the door dashers, as they say. You wake up and they start dashing, that's their term.
I was in the office before we did the taping today, and I was sitting in the backyard, and I saw a guy pull up on a scooter. And downstairs is an office, and they have legal documents, and the secretary came out the side door, handed him an envelope, and he jumped on the scooter, started the motor up, took off. And I said, oh, and I've seen the guy there several times. So I said to myself, that's a new way of, he probably created a little side gig or hustle for himself, and he goes around delivering legal documents rather than depend on the mail. I know we sent something out recently, and how long did it take to get there? It took almost a week to get there.
Also, when professionals live in a busy city, for example, let's say Bridgeport, why go downtown? You gotta get a toll, you gotta validate your parking. When there's a courier service, you can call him up, he'll bring you documents to your colleagues and clients. And when people find a need and they feel the need, that's how they start their businesses, or they get ideas for businesses.
Exactly, because I thought how convenient that is if I've got, after the taping today, I know we have to go drop off some legal documents at an attorney's office. Now we've got to go there, we've got to find a parking space, or park in the parking lot. We got to put money in the meter. We got to take the elevator. We got to go upstairs.
Sign into the building.
We got to sign into the building. Wait for the attorney to come out. Do all of that. Come back down. Whereas a courier service, I just call them up and say, hey, I got a letter I want you to deliver. If it costs me $20, I'm still saving money when you figure out all of the time and effort and running around the city. I might even get a parking ticket.
Exactly. Because people have realized time is money. So if you can think of an idea or just say, I could save that person time, that's value to them.
Exactly. I know last week we talked about some of the things that you could do on the side to find out if you can make money. And I remember years ago, there's even a magazine. There used to be a magazine called Opportunity. And you buy it at any bookstore, and inside there they have advertisements of all of the different franchises or side businesses or things that you can do to make extra money. So with the market turning down, you start thinking and you start preparing for things that you can do. There's always another way that you can make ends meet. Do you know that more businesses were started when the economy was down than when it was up? Because people start thinking of ways to do things.
People, they see on the news, they see the word recession, and they see the negative context it has. What you can do is change your mindset. Change the recession to, this is a time for me to get my wealth, to get my footing in industries that may not have been so fruitful in a non-recession. This is a time to see the deals out there and not take advantage, but to take hold of them.
Not only that, look at it this way. A large corporation it's hard for them to change courses. It's like a ship. They say sometimes it takes 3 miles for a ship to change direction. But if you are small business, or you start.
So you're the tugboat next to the boat.
Right. You could come up with all kinds of ideas that you can put together, so you can make some money on the side and make some changes.
Exactly.
Now we're in the real estate, and like I said, my son and I, we basically co-own Tri-State Realty, and we have agents throughout the state of Connecticut, and we work with other agents in other cities and in other states. What we do is we've changed a lot of our direction.
Yes.
We've changed a lot of our marketing, and we're utilizing people out there that really work from their home.
Very true.
Some of them even work in other cities, other countries.
Exactly.
We pick up the phone and we talk to them, and they can design and do artwork for us. And they send it with the internet now. It's nothing's
off limits and nothing's impossible, I would say.
Exactly, and you can deal with a wealth of talent. Many of the people out there that we're addressing right now, you may have a special talent. You may not be able to afford a brick and mortar or an office building where you can go and pay rent and the lights and the gas and the telephone.
Exactly.
But you could set up a little office in your home, and you can decide what it is that you do. And it doesn't take a lot of investment.
Nope.
So you're not going to be putting out a ton of money. You don't have to go to the bank and get a loan to start a business.
Nope.
You can work right from down in your basement or a small little office and come up with an idea. You could put it on the internet. You could put out, people use Facebook. Think about what it is that you do and what you're good at, and come up with that particular idea and put it out there.
Exactly.
What's your investment? When you put it out there, and you can even buy what is it? A little advertisement to put your business out there. It doesn't have to be expensive.
Not at all.
And you're in business.
Hey, they can use the telephone poles. That's the free advertising.
Exactly.
For example, I would say also in impending recession, not only think of side gigs, think of there's very simple certifications people get. They become a notary, be a mobile notary. I see that's getting more popular again, where people need to get stuff notarized, and they may not have an office, but what they do is a notary comes to them, comes inside their home or office. They're the witness, and they have the stamp and everything. Think of things that may not need a 4-year degree, college degree. Think of get your real estate license. All kinds of things you can do in this economy to prepare for what's coming in 2023 and beyond.
You just hit on something. Notary.
Yes.
You can go to the secretary, in your local state, get in touch or go online and look up the Secretary of State and look what does it need do. What do you need to do to become a notary? And it's not all of that complicated. You don't have to go take a big exam you don't have to go to college.
Nope.
There's a series of questions that they ask you. You fill out those questions, you answer those questions, you figure out what it is that your oath, what it's going to be, and you can send off and get a seal. That's the seal that you make your notary seal. And what happens is that there's a lot of people looking around for a notary. There used to be a lot of notaries in offices and everything, but with the high cost of the offices, it doesn't pay to have a big office just to notarize papers. And you could put your ad out there, and a lot of times, the attorneys or City Hall requires a lot of papers to be notarized, and especially now, but a lot of people doing things from home. You can go right to their home and notarize a paper, and just witness their signature. What materials do you really need? You're just looking down at your eyeballs, witnessing the signature, signing it, pressing your seal on there, and handing it back to them, and then they pay you a fee. So there's a business right there. Many of you may go out there and want to start. You may want to become a notary.
And in this day and age, you can stand out by saying that you come to them, you stand out. You can say within 2 hours or less, everything is completed. When you do go into an industry, whether you're new or a veteran, you want to make sure you stand out from the rest. Why does that person go with you when there's another, let's say a notary in this example? You got to make sure your marketing is unique and it's something that is unique to your character.
Exactly, and it doesn't take, like I said, you don't need a college degree. The thing about it is that most millionaires didn't go to college.
How about that? We were talking about the other day. We were talking about the other day how you'll see on TV, whether it's Bill Gates or other people who are very, very wealthy, the college invites them to come back and they get an honorary degree after dropping out.
They come and they speak to all the other students and tell them how they became wealthy, and they didn't even graduate from college.
How about that?
And they have them come speak at the college. Because mainly what it all depends on is desire and persistence. And I've been, I'm a great believer of YouTube. I must spend at least 2 to 3 hours
YouTube
a
University.
day. When I get out of work and I go home, I don't go there and watch who did this or regular TV.
America's Got Talent, none of that stuff.
I don't know the first thing about that, and who's the dancing star and all of that. The first thing I do is I figure out what is it that I want to know about.
Yes.
And then the first thing I'll do is say, well, what happened today? What's the economic news? What are the economics of the world? What's going on? What happened in the news? Where's the stock market? And they explain it in detail. They have average people that are on there that have programs that explain everything to you. And then you can even say to them, well, what do you think the future is going to bring? They're not 100% accurate, but they will tell you some of the things, where the economy's headed, what's going on, and they read things for you, like the consumer price index, the interest rate.
They break it down.
They break it down. How does that affect your average life? What's going on? What's the productivity in the United States? What's going on outside of the world? See, years ago...
I was going to say, not to interrupt you, but with YouTube, you can see what's going on. You said economies. The United States is just a small little bubble. The world is very big. People may not know what's going on in the UK, how they have a new prime minister, their second one within 3 months. That's big time.
That's big time.
But out here in the United States, we may just be focused on our news. Remember, we're in a global economy. What they do will eventually affect us.
For years, I used to tell people, you got to look at what's happening in the world, not what's just happening on your street, not just what's happening in your state. Look at, when we're talking about different things that are happening out there, we're talking right now about the war in Ukraine.
Yes.
One of the things I did not realize is how much grain they produce.
Yes, very true.
That war is affecting produce. If you're buying a pig or you're buying an animal, you got to feed the animal.
Feed them.
And that takes grain.
They produce, I believe, they said about 10 to 15% of the world's grain comes from there.
Comes from there. And I was just, and see, you get educated on what's going on. Today I was listening to a program, and last week they were talking about how the war was supposed to slow down to give the Ukrainians a chance to ship their grain out of the ports where they have all this grain.
Yes.
And give them a chance to put it out there. So that's what happened. But then today I was hearing that the grain was going to companies or countries that it was not intended to go to. And the reason being, the poor countries where they wanted the grain to go to were overbid by the wealthier countries that needed the grain, so they were willing to pay more money for the grain. So yes, the grain was sent out, but the companies that got the grain were the ones that were willing to pay top dollar. So they overruled the smaller companies, and so the war ratcheted back up because the other side said, "Hey, that's not fair. We gave you a chance to ship out some of your grain, but the grain is going to a higher whoever's
wealthier countries.
Everything has to do with economics." Now here, the other thing I didn't realize, this was really interesting. I tell you, education is something.
Yes.
I found that there's two different types of grain. One type of grain you could take, like, for example, like I'm not into flowers, but you got a perennial flower that comes around every year. You plant it once, and every year it comes back.
Blooms every spring.
You got a flower that you plant at one time, it looks beautiful, and then it dies, and it's over with.
That's it.
Where it doesn't come back every year. There's grain that does the same thing.
Oh, wow.
So you could take and sell grain to other countries, because why is it that some countries have grain and some other countries don't have the grain? And the countries that have the grain, they will sell the seeds. It's the seed.
Yes.
They'll sell the seeds to another country so that country can produce their own grain from the seed that you sell them.
Yes.
But they don't sell you the seed that will come back every year.
Hey, ain't that something?
They sell you the seed that once you grow the grain is harvested and the seed is dead. So it
you
doesn't
gotta ask
come
for more seed.
and you got to go back and buy more seeds from them. So if you're buying seeds from a country, you say, I want the seed that once the crop is harvested, that same seed can be used to grow another harvest for the next year.
They say, no.
They say, no. We don't want you to have that capability.
Exactly.
We're selling you a seed for you to grow one crop, and that's it. And I said, well, isn't that something?
Wow.
It gets down to even what kind of seed that the country will sell you, because they don't want you to be able to grow your own crop.
So they want to have a hold on the market, you're saying, basically.
Exactly.
Wow.
So there's so much that you need to know. If I went and bought a whole cargo full of seed, and I get all this crop, and I'd be next year waiting, all excited, waiting for the next crop.
It doesn't
put
crop.
all the seed in the ground, all I get is grass.
Wow. Now, see what you said there? That's the other side of inflation you don't really see on the news. Now, what's going to happen to that country that basically overpaid for that seed? They're going to pass that over to their citizens. They're going to have to sell it to those farmers or those stores at an increased price now. And that's going to trickle down to the retail sales.
Exactly.
Yes.
We ran into the same thing in our industry. As I said before, if you just tuned in, my name is Charles Scott Sr. and Charles Scott Jr. And we're with Tri-State Realty. We're the brokers, and we're able to give you some economic news. We're able to help you with the purchase of a home or sell your home. But we're giving you information that you can plan your life for.
Yes.
We give you. It takes money to buy a house, or it takes programs. We let you know about all these different programs, and we're giving you an idea of some of the things that are going out there. Right now, we're talking about the supply and demand and how things out there affect your life, even though they may be far away in other countries, whether it's grain that we're talking about, whether it's raw materials that we're talking about. What is it, in the last year, you found difficult to buy a car, chips.
Yep, the chips.
And now the United States is starting to build their own chip factories.
They're trying to make them here on we call it our domestic land. But like I said, with that being anything done domestically, it's going to have an increased cost. So I can imagine cars and these PlayStations, anything that needs a chip can probably be more money later down the line.
Right, and some countries have raw materials that other countries do not have.
Correct.
You know, I used to always wonder, I'd say, well, you know, when they talk about steel, you know, we buy a lot of steel from foreign countries. It's got to be
Yeah.
shipped all across the world from here, from there. I'd say that stuff is heavy. Why would we buy steel all the way from a country 1,000 miles away and ship it when it costs, you know, the cost is big. You ever order a package through UPS or
Heavy
FedEx? A little box, a little package. They weigh it and they say, okay, where's it coming from? Imagine ordering a 20 length piece of steel.
Yeah.
But the problem being, we don't have materials in certain
No.
areas that we can produce that steel.
Nope.
So we have to pay somebody way over in another country, whether it's China or wherever it may be, to send it over to us. And now, we may have things that they don't have, that they can't produce.
Very true. We have our own exports.
So the global economy has it such that all of the countries rely on other countries. They say wars have been fought for raw materials.
Oh, yes.
And many countries keep strategic air bases and armies in certain areas to protect the raw materials.
Oh, yeah. The oil fields in Saudi Arabia, from that to other raw materials around the world.
That's right. And I see now, what's one of the things out there that's affecting all of us, and that is the cost of gas and oil.
Energy.
Heat and oil. And I see now the President of the United States is releasing strategic oil fields where
The reserves are coming
we
in.
have oil that's stored underground. And by releasing that oil, the theory is that now that will lessen the cost of the gasoline.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that I also realize, and see, there's so much behind everything, and that's
So
why we
much.
give you this education, is
Yes.
because there's different types of oil.
Oh, yeah.
Some oil you can produce gasoline from. Some, there's low-grade oil that you can produce diesel fuel from.
Crude. Yes.
The crude. So it all depends on which refineries can refine that oil and convert it into either gas, diesel, regular oil, all sorts of oil. So you can have
Exactly.
all the oil in the world, but if you do not have a refinery that can turn that oil into something productive, it's not going to do you any good.
Now, on the same thing with the oil, now you see oil is an element that, you know, is more abundant outside the United States. So we have these reserves for times like these, but like they said, the reserves, that's only a temporary fix. There's only so much they can release in the reserves before the reserves are depleted.
Not only that, when the reserves get down to such a point that it's a low point, then the cost goes back up because the
Yes.
other people realize that you are depleting a lot of your oil. So everything is interwound to where you, I, all of us have to figure out what is it that we can do and how these things will affect our lives
Yes.
as to how we can prepare. One of the things that they're saying right now, if the economy takes a downturn, what are some of the things out there that you should do? Number one, you should start saving money because money is going to be needed.
Yes.
You should also start looking at alternate sources of income. If you can make a little extra money on the side, start looking at buying in bulk. In other words, stop
yeah.
running back and forth to the store every now and then. Go to the big box store, get yourself a freezer, store up on some food.
Yes.
That's why restaurants are in trouble right now, unfortunately,
Very
because,
true.
you know, I'm talking.
You told me the other night there was a restaurant. It was empty.
You know, I went to a restaurant the other night that's usually crowded, and you know, there was only about maybe, I'd say 15 people when there's usually 100 people there. So, you know, the restaurant industry is having a hard time because the food cost to them has gone up,
Yes.
and they can only pass so much of that on to the people that come in there. Then the cost of help is going up, the cost of electricity is going up. So they've got to find alternate ways of running a restaurant.
And the call back to what I said earlier in the same episode. I see that a lot. Like I said, I go in these restaurants, I see that they have the DoorDashers and the Grubhubs, and people say, well, these restaurants are doing good. These kids are delivering the food. But remember, those middle companies, they take a large commission. I know some restaurants right there in Waterbury where I'm from where they told me, the owner said, I can't do the Grubhub. I can't do it. They take too much of a chunk of my commission. So remember, there's always a step to the final step of the final customer. There's always opportunities to make money. So that's where you come in with this upcoming recession. They're saying, think of things that you can do to help these businesses, to help people who are having a rut or might have a problem. You solve a solution, that's how you make your profit.
Exactly. And there's many things that you could possibly do because, you know, a person that can make money no matter whether it be in business, services, figure out what it is that you can do to solve a problem. You in other words, just last night I was looking at a gentleman and he was talking about, you know, when he got laid off from one of his jobs and all the people were sitting around trying to figure out where they were going to go. What was their next job going to be? And they were all saying, well, you know, this company here's got problems. I'm not going there. Well, I'm going to get myself a secure job over here because they always hire people. And he said someone told him, look for a company that's got a lot of problems. He said, and you become the solution.
Exactly.
So if you can see where you have skills and you can become a solution for the problems, you will be invaluable to that company.
Irreplaceable.
And everybody's got something that they do that no one else can do. God has all of us as angels, and God has
Everyone
all
has a
of us
talent.
as where there's a talent. You got to sit down and figure out, what can I do that somebody else can? What can I do best? So if you sit down and figure out what that is, and you have to be persistent. It might not work at first, but you've got to be consistent at what you're doing. Figure out what it is, write yourself out a plan, and you come in, even if it means working extra hours. Maybe it means working for less money.
That's the thing. There we go.
You know, don't go in greedy saying, I got to have X amount of dollars, because you'll be the first one that they'll lay off to save money.
People don't realize when it comes to some of these big jobs and big industries or even working for yourself, internships, you see internships where people work for free to get experience. You remember, treat your own LLC, your own company as you're interning for yourself. You're working for free because you're getting the knowledge and the strategies that are in the end are going to allow you to profit and gain that income down the line.
Right. You worked as an income, remember?
Intern,
When you got out of college,
yes.
You worked as an intern. You worked for free.
The whole summer.
The whole summer. And even when it was time to get a job, you worked for free.
Definitely.
And you worked for free, and you had to pay your own bus fare.
It wasn't free all the way.
All the way. You had to pay expenses.
Yes.
And you didn't get paid anything.
Nope.
But you got the experience. And you have to put that on your resume to say, this is what I can do.
Exactly.
And you learn how to solve problems.
Exactly.
So you have to do that and figure out things. Many of you out there, today's lesson is that figure out what you do best and figure out how you can become valuable to someone else and what you can do to provide a service. And if you provide a service, you know, they'll beat a path to you for advice. And the money will come later, the riches, but at least provide a solution for something out there to help somebody.
In closing, just want to say, be the solution. Do not focus on the income. That's after the fact. As you solve people's problems, you'll see that in the end, then you'll start receiving the income.
And until next week, tune in, tell your friends.
Yes.
God bless.
Amen.